Channel 9.
This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. White House officials expressed confidence today that the economic sanctions President Reagan slapped on Panama will soon force its military ruler out of power. And the United States is working behind the scenes now to find him a new home. Terrence Smith is following developments at the White House.
CBS News has learned that at least two countries, Spain and Paraguay, have offered to grant political asylum to Panama's Manuel Noriega if he will step down from power. The offers have been extended in the last 24 hours at the request of the Reagan administration, which has cut off funds to Panama in a campaign to persuade Noriega to leave voluntarily. The administration is also preparing a package of some $100 million in economic assistance for Panama to be granted to the government that succeeds Noriega.
We are ready to take up work with such a government to do everything possible to restore economic health in Panama, security of Panama, and so on.
In the meantime, opposition leaders are continuing to use the U.S. courts to tie up Panamanian government assets. The latest target, the national airline. The cash-strapped Noriega regime has already announced that it will not be able to meet the payroll due Tuesday for the Army and government workers. The opposition's attorney, a former Undersecretary of State, expects that to make a difference.
This is going to increase the level of dissatisfaction in Panama, and in my judgment, that dissatisfaction is concentrated right on Noriega.
But one former diplomat with experience in the area is concerned that economic warfare may politicize the canal and backfire against the U.S.
Beneath the surface is this anti-Americanism, and I'm afraid that something of the kind we are now engaged in could exacerbate those tensions and might lead to some kind of anti-American explosion in Panama.
Administration officials say they are keenly aware of that possibility and intend to move slowly to avoid overplaying their hand. At the same time, White House officials say they hope and expect Noriega to be out of Panama within 2 weeks. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
With the new U.S. economic sanctions, the cash crisis in Panama grew even worse today, and Juan Vasquez has that part of the story.
It's becoming Panama's national slogan, "We have no money." Even at the public market in small towns like Chorrera, business is down by 50%.
No money in the pocket.
Panama uses dollars for its currency, but since banks closed 2 weeks ago, there's no money of any kind. Some merchants, desperate for business, accept checks knowing they can't cash them. Bartering has become more common, as well as the use of IOUs. The result is growing hostility against the Noriega regime. Noriega claims he has the support of Panama's poor against the largely middle-class opposition. But as the economic vice on the country tightens, it's increasingly hard to find evidence of that support. These people weren't afraid, but virtually no one heard them. The fear of Noriega's forces is so strong that the latest rally organized by the opposition was a dismal failure. Even so, soldiers responded with overwhelming force, firing tear gas canisters into apartments and arresting more than 50 people. President Eric Arturo del Valle remains in hiding. He communicated with CBS News by videotape in response to written questions.
I do not believe that imposing economic sanctions against the unlawful Noriega regime will run the risk of backfiring. On the contrary, it will make everyone aware that Noriega has to go.
The notion that Noriega will leave eventually is growing. He hasn't staged any of his public rallies lately, and in small towns like Chorrera, Panamanians who have run out of money say they can't hold out much longer. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Chorrera.
And in faraway Nepal, at least 90 people were killed today, crushed during a stampede at a Kathmandu soccer stadium. Police say a hailstorm forced the crowd to rush for the exits. Eyewitnesses say the doors were locked. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the presidential campaign moves into Illinois, where it's do or die for Dole, and later David Culhane shows us the blizzard of '88, 100 years after the storm.
It took 2,000 years, but a revolutionary discovery is changing the way men think about coloring their gray hair. It's called Just for Men, from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, shampoo out. Your gray is blended away, leaving your natural-looking color. 5 minutes. Here, look at me. Just for Men leaves your hair looking healthy and fuller, and it won't fade or wash out. Just for Men, in the men's hair care section.
These are stewed tomatoes from Del Monte. These are not. These are the nation's leading seller. These are not. These are chosen by Del Monte for their consistent quality. These are not. These come in more varieties than any other national brand, like Mexican style, Italian style, and Cajun style. These do not. Del Monte stewed tomatoes. Does your family deserve anything less? Del Monte, we grow quality.
South Carolina Democrats held precinct caucuses across the state today to decide which candidate will get the largest share of the 44 delegates at stake. At this point, Jesse Jackson is expected to get the largest share. Results coming in later tonight. Illinois Republicans and Democrats hold their presidential primaries on Tuesday. The question on the Republican side, can Bob Dole do well enough to at least keep his campaign alive on the Democratic side? Can Jesse Jackson come from behind and win in the Midwest? Eric Engberg's in Chicago tonight and has today's developments.
This was all there was to the foundering Dole campaign most of the day. Crisis meetings at the headquarters hotel amid signs of growing desperation. Finally emerging after canceling a Chicago appearance, Dole was confronted by a new poll in the Chicago Tribune showing George Bush's lead in Illinois has jumped to 34 points. In a final bid to save his candidacy, Dole headed to Galesburg for an evening appearance that will be televised statewide.
Gracie, this is the Vice President calling.
While Bush mounted his own telephone campaign, reliable sources in Washington reported that Dole, should he lose Illinois, will face pressure from Republican senators to quit the race or see his role as minority leader challenged. The Illinois Democratic contest resembles a neighborhood feud featuring Paul Simon looking for a home state lift out of the discard pile versus another favorite son, Jesse Jackson. Simon is backed by organization politicians who are on his delegate slates and can't go to the convention if he loses. Some also worry over political white flight.
Democratic leaders are going around saying that we have a lot of important races. We do not want to be branded as the party of Jesse Jackson.
Today's Tribune poll gives Simon a 5% lead, close enough, politicians say, to give Jackson a chance at winning the non-binding beauty contest, even if his support, concentrated in black neighborhoods, won't give him a win in delegates.
I have to win in the delegate contest and the beauty contest, and I'm going to.
For his part, Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis is using his Greek roots to appeal to the many ethnic groups and attempting to chip away at Simon's generally soft support.
I think there's an awful lot of undecideds out there. There are people who are wondering whether or not Paul can really seriously be considered as a candidate for president.
The hometown quality of the race has given Dukakis, the national frontrunner in delegates, a safe week. No one expects him to win here. And if Dole cannot pull off a miracle finish, all the attention next week will focus on how Illinois, often a king-making state, finished off his wounded candidacy. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Chicago.
And there are some big political changes coming Monday in Louisiana because a new governor is taking office. Even in Louisiana, where people have always favored a little flamboyance in the state house, it's going to be a long time before they forget the man who's been running the state these last 4 years. Bob Faw is in Baton Rouge and has our report on that.
You must have a rich husband.
It's the end of an era. Rejected by voters, flamboyant Governor Edwin Edwards, who used to say, "Let the good times roll," is now saying goodbye to his staff.
Okay, Tony.
Wish you best of luck.
Are they going to keep you around?
Yeah, we talked to me.
And Louisiana, despite all that jazz, despite incomparable Cajun cooking, bayou beauty, Louisiana needs all the help it can get. With the nation's highest unemployment rate, with revenues drying up from its crucial oil and gas industry, the state of incoming Governor Buddy Roemer faces economic disaster.
That is a bankrupt state government, coupled with an educational system that just is not producing a very well-educated, useful product.
So Roemer, promising to clean house, has launched a nationwide talent search to lure people from outside the state to help clean up Louisiana's mess.
We ought to do things differently. And part of that difference was picking the best and the brightest.
There is a precedent for all this. 60 years ago, a new Louisiana governor who turned the state upside down politically, Huey Long, the legendary Kingfish, went outside the state to recruit and hire experts. There was a hue and cry then that those jobs should be reserved for Louisiana natives. There is a hue and cry today as well.
To suggest to the people of the nation that an incoming governor does not have enough confidence in the competence of the people of Louisiana to help him run his administration is, I think, demeaning to the state.
Still, applications from outsiders are tumbling in, 3,000 of them for 20 key jobs. And in a state where corruption has often been winked at as long as it's been entertaining, the suspicion lingers that the new wave here is going to ruffle more than a few feathers.
A person who grows up in Louisiana is going to be overlooked for someone of equal qualifications from Illinois or Indiana or California, New York, I think is deplorable.
Look, I won't let him make political hay over this. A governor who got his tail kicked? Who cares?
It's a clash, then, between an old guard and a new order, and a question of how much Louisiana will change, if at all. Bob Fall, CBS News, Baton Rouge.
These little things are like snowflakes.
Boy, this crunch is loud. I thought I heard you say these little things were like snowflakes.
I did.
I thought my Grape Nut cereal was nutty.
Look, what do you see?
A woman playing with her food.
No two look the same.
You're right. They're all different.
They're all natural.
Just like snowflakes.
Mm-hmm. Isn't nature wonderful?
Talk about flakes.
Post Grape Nut cereal, the one and only.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. Do you understand?
The new Subaru XT6 has a powerful six-cylinder engine, computerized full-time four-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
La 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 bam bam. The Subaru XT6. We built our reputation by building a better car.
When you go shopping, you have to find the right fit, style, color.
When you do, you feel great.
But when you also find the Made in the USA label, you feel even better.
It's a great feeling.
Made in the USA.
Excuse me.
No problem. We know about Kaopectate, too.
Kaopectate actually absorbs the germs that can cause diarrhea.
Kaopectate bags.
The diarrhea specialist.
An estimated 2,000 Armenians demonstrated outside the Los Angeles City Hall today. They were supporting Soviet Armenians in their dispute with the Kremlin over the rights of their ethnic minority. In the Middle East, Israel says its warplanes destroyed 5 PLO guerrilla bases today in southern Lebanon near Sidon. The raid apparently in retaliation for Monday's bus hijacking in which 3 Israelis died. Israeli television reports at least 8 people were killed, several others wounded in today's attack. In the occupied territories, more Arab members of the Israeli police resigned today under pressure from leaders of the Palestinian protests. One Arab officer predicted 1,000 Palestinians will quit by tomorrow. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir leaves Israel tomorrow for a visit to the United States, and with the current trouble in the Middle East, it's attracting more than the usual interest in Washington. How much interest? Ask someone like Congressman David Obey of Wisconsin.
There is not a day goes by that I don't get a call or a letter or questioning what's happening on the West Bank and asking what are we, quote, what are you guys doing about it?
David Obey's constituents aren't the only ones asking about the violence on the West Bank. Israel's controversial policy for dealing with the riots has turned a routine trip by Israel's prime minister into a very special visit.
There is a major difference of opinion between the United States government, members of Congress and the Senate, and the Prime Minister of Israel and his party.
That major difference involves Secretary of State Schultz's outline of a comprehensive plan for a peace settlement for the Middle East, a plan that enjoys remarkably bipartisan support in Washington.
The Congress is strongly supportive
of what Secretary Shultz is trying to do in the Middle East.
So supportive that 30 senators who are known as friends of Israel took the unusual step of writing a letter asking that Secretary Shultz's plan be given a chance. They didn't want to talk about their letter publicly, but Shamir did, rejecting it out of hand. The Prime Minister claimed the senators were not helping the peace process. Some Americans agree.
The reason I think it was misguided is that it ill behooves American citizens, myself included, to tell Israel what its negotiating stance should be.
That stance is not likely to change much, at least not as a result of next week's visit.
We obviously don't want to try to back the Prime Minister into a corner. We're not going to be twisting his arm.
Maybe not this time, but Israel is holding elections this year that could result in a majority for a hardline government. If that government continues to resist a settlement, it could lead, at the very least, to new bitterness in the debate here over U.S. aid to Israel, aid that now comes to about $3 billion a year.
Have you heard about this left brain, right brain stuff? Hey, take this steak. The left brain is supposed to understand that in a balanced, varied diet, a lean, trim, 3-ounce portion can easily fit within the leading dietary guidelines. That's logical. The right brain just knows it's good. That's emotional. Nice thing about sirloin, makes the whole brain happy. Beef, real food for real people.
This is your executive section.
Executive section.
This is your welcoming gift.
Welcoming gift.
This is your newly decorated room.
This is Howard Johnson.
A gentle guarantee. X-Lax is guaranteed to work gently by 8 a.m. when taken at bedtime or your money back. A promise you can count on. X-Lax, guaranteed complete relief by 8 a.m.
50 years ago today, Nazi troops marched across the German border into Austria. Well, many Austrians observe the anniversary today by blasting their president's Nazi past and urging him to quit. Doug Tennell with that.
Several thousand protesters gathered outside President Kurt Waldheim's office today to call for his resignation as Austria marks the 50th anniversary of its annexation by Nazi Germany. The anti-Waldheim campaign drew a big crowd despite driving rain and near freezing weather.
I wanted to hear the people speak, and I'm really against Waldheim.
Why?
Because he's a liar.
The controversy surrounding Kurt Waldheim has focused Austria's attentions on what happened in this country exactly 50 years ago, but it's also turned this anniversary into a highly politicized event. For these Austrian leftists, the theme is Never Again, the music a socialist song from the concentration camps. But at a meeting in Vienna last night, a very different tune. Highly nostalgic rendition of Germany's national anthem. For these ultra-conservative Austrian nationalists, it is time to stop all the probing into Kurt Waldheim's and Austria's past. It is time, the speaker said, to turn a new page against the communist threat. For many here, these sentiments are reminiscent of the Nazi past Austria is trying to cope with today.
And there is a lot of new fascism. And so we all talk about 50 years ago, but we forget that there are many things happening today.
Among the many things, Vienna's theater troupes are dealing with the Nazi era in a number of productions. It is perhaps the first time Austrians have made a nationwide concerted effort to look back, and many have discovered it isn't always easy. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Vienna.
Philippines President Corazon Aquino told military academy graduates today to stay out of politics and stick to fighting communist rebels. She did not mention that many cadets supported last year's coup attempt. Aquino now faces potential political danger from another direction, practically in her own backyard. John Blackstone has that.
Disappointment in the accomplishments of the Aquino Revolution goes beyond a few hundred rebellious soldiers. Millions of poor people who have seen no change in their lives are beginning to ask, when will the revolution start to serve them?
We have to admit that there is a growing dissatisfaction. I mean, people are again getting to be impatient.
The impatience is understandable. The urban poor, squatters whose makeshift homes were often bulldozed by the Marcos government, helped the Aquino revolution succeed. But the evictions and the demolition of slums have continued.
She's poorly advised, not only on action, but on understanding. Because of her own, perhaps limited background, she doesn't see this reality herself.
The president's background is on the other side of Philippine society, where wealth seems almost unlimited. Her revolution is trying to serve both sides. But satisfying the poor urban squatters could dissatisfy the wealthy city landowners, because many of the shanties of the 2.5 million squatters in Manila are built on private property, and the wealthy owners want the squatters evicted. The Aquino government, caught between the two, has made only cosmetic changes.
If people like me, who are very new in the government, will try to push through to that agenda, we will not last in this government.
Other pressures for changes in the slums may emerge. Communist-supported assassins operate in the cities, but have no power base there. Continued discontent in the slums, however, could provide an urban foothold for a communist organization that has been mainly rural. The Aquino Revolution was a triumph of what was called people power. But the government's survival may require a triumph of people's patience. John Blackstone, CBS News, Manila.
The Vietnam War movie Platoon is packing them in, of all places, Vietnam. According to Vietnam's official news agency, tens of thousands have lined up to see the film in Ho Chi Minh City. Grim new statistics tonight about AIDS. A study in the British Medical Journal now says 3 out of 4 people infected with the virus will develop some form of the fatal disease within 6 years.
Daddy, I want my teddy bear.
I want my soda.
Get comfortable. Get a Serta Perfect Sleeper. It's the only mattress that goes beyond firmness to give you the exclusive Serta surface. It'll spoil you for sleeping any other way.
I want my Serta.
Get your Serta and save during the Serta Perfect Sleeper $25 million sale at participating retailers. Save today and find out why people are saying, I want my Serta.
When your coffee's rich enough for all working day long, and it tastes your way,
It's necessarily Nescafe. Great coffee blends to change the way. That's necessarily Nescafe.
Honey, where's the ice cream? With our new Whirlpool refrigerator, I don't hear that anymore. Shelves in the refrigerator and baskets in the freezer slide out, so nothing gets hidden away.
Oh, same like golf clubs?
If they're in there, you'll find them.
Whirlpool.
This man is twice as strong as this man. Tom's EX is twice as strong as Rolaids, so when you have heartburn, get the stronger acid neutralizer. Tom's EX, twice as strong as Rolaids.
1 week before spring, a major snowstorm has moved into the upper Midwest. It blew in from the northern plains and buried parts of Minnesota and the Dakotas in up to 7 feet of snow. The storm brought travel to a standstill, stranding hundreds of people. The storm today falls on the 100th anniversary of one of the worst snowstorms in U.S. history, the infamous blizzard of '88. That crippled the Northeast for weeks and took an enormous toll. David Colhane with that.
Rain turned to snow and ice just after midnight, and the Northeast woke to an awful reality. 400 people died in the savage cold.
Mostly people died from exposure, from being frozen. And a lot of them on city streets, just they would get into a snowdrift and couldn't get out.
And just trapped.
Especially lots of, I'm sorry to say, children.
One reason for all the deaths was that people were totally unprepared for 3 days of Arctic conditions. The weather forecast had called for fair to partly cloudy.
In those days, they had no idea, or very little idea, of what the upper level flow was, which is so important to meteorology today.
All the elements of a true blizzard were there.
Heavy snowfall, savagely cold temperatures, and roaring winds that blast the frozen snow at your skin like buckshot. Mary Cable's mother told her about the great blizzard.
She remembers that she couldn't see across the street. It was snowing so much. And her father was downtown, and he came staggering in. She remembers that covered with ice.
In other words, not just snow, but...
Ice. And mustache was all covered in his beard.
All public transportation came to a halt. Food deliveries stopped. There was no coal to heat homes. Houses that caught fire burnt to the ground because firemen could not get around. Even so, there was some grim humor. Telephone and telegraph lines were knocked down everywhere. The storm did lead to some public improvements. New York began to lay the wires and even the trains underground. It was the beginning of the subway system. Experts say a storm like the blizzard of '88 is rare, but it could happen again.
It may happen only once every few hundred years. It could happen next year or 50 years from now.
David Culhane, CBS News, New York.
That's the news. West 57th is coming up later tonight. Susan Spencer will be here tomorrow with the CBS Evening News. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
It's a pathway that leads from here to tomorrow, from sea to shining sea. The great American road belongs to Buick. Whoa, it's a feeling of smoothness, of power and grace. The road up ahead in command. Yeah, the great American road belongs to Buick.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For indigestion, heartburn, and gas, nobody does as much as Malox Plus. Dose for dose, it neutralizes more than any regular strength antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as Malox Plus.
I just got dentures, but it hasn't slowed me down.
Sergeant, me to 45, want to hear 45, 45, please.
Fixodent and forget it. Fixodent helps fix loose spots for a strong hold that lasts longer than any leading cream.
2, I hear 25, want to hear 25, 25, 30.
Use Fixodent and forget it.
Atlanta's Air Force, the Hawks, are hungry to topple the mighty Celtics. A feast in the East tomorrow.
This is CBS.
Remember the problem we had with accounting, complaining that the courier and overnight delivery costs were on the moon? And marketing said that they couldn't economize because of the importance of what we were sending? Yeah. Well, Arnie in account service just turned the whole thing around with iNet.
iNet?
iNet. It's our own customized computer network. It allows us to connect our computers to almost anybody else's computer anytime, anywhere.
Really? That was ambitious.
And it was smart. The startup cost was almost nothing. All our people can use it, and Arnie's already got his suppliers and customers on iNet with us. Now,